Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet, sponsored by Apple Capital Group. At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today, we have a guest. We're talking about multicultural relationships and marriages, and her name is Wendy Williams. We're going to take a station break for the moment and dial in to Vienna, and she should be online shortly. Again, here's a message from our sponsor, Apple Capital Group. Be back in a moment.
You're listening to the Core Business Show, sponsored by Apple Capital Group. Apple Capital Group in Jacksonville, Florida, is a commercial lender that specializes in asset-based loans, equipment leasing and financing, invoice financing, commercial real estate loans, and asset-based financing in the U.S. and Canada. Apple Capital Group is a direct lender that lends on their private equity investment portfolio. 90% of most loans are decided within 2 hours, and vendor funding within 24 hours after documents are completed, with a one-page application. No slow no's, just a quick decision and a fast yes. To get more information about lending from Apple Capital Group, call 866-611-7457. That's 866-611-7457 to speak with one of our loan specialists. Or visit us right now at applecapitalgroup.com.
Well, that was Blue Skies by the Corpus Christi Choir in Texas. Wendy, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Hey, this has been the funniest thing because we have had technical issues. So anyway, we got you online. We patched you through our phone system here at the office. Well, I guess to start over, you're the author of Audacity of Love, but can you kind of bring us forward? Tell us about yourself and how did you come to write this book?
Okay, I'll just make a small correction, if I may, Timothy.
Sure.
Not the Audacity of Love, although I like that title. This title is actually the globalization of love.
The globalization of love. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Slightly different. And the book, as the title would imply, is a book about multicultural romance and marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a fun book on the one hand, but it's also fact-based. So it's based on dozens of multicultural couples.
Okay.
How multicultural couples meet, and weddings, religion and race, food, language, children, a lot of other things that fall under the cultural.
And you're right now you're in Vienna. Where are you originally from?
I grew up in Northern Ontario in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Canadian citizen. And yes, and I grew up in a multicultural family, actually.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents are from, one side is from the Ukraine, the other side is UK, is from England. Now I'm married to an Austrian, so it's been a multicultural journey for me, and now I live.
Can you tell us about you and your husband? He's from Vienna?
Well, he's from a small town. You know, he would strangle you for saying he's from Vienna. He's from a small town of, about 150 from Vienna, but he's an Austrian.
Can you tell us about the challenges? Well, before we go into the challenges, tell us why you wrote the book, The Globalization of Love.
Yeah, well, the idea came to me, I guess along the course of my marriage in observing the world around me. Because I'm in a multicultural marriage. A lot of our friends, in our circle of friends, there are a lot of multicultural couples as well. And I just started noticing there are certain patterns, there are certain issues that happen within a multicultural relationship that you don't necessarily find in a monocultural relationship. There are more issues. So in addition to, cap on the toothpaste issues and sex, much and laundry issues, there's a whole slew of additional issues related to include everything from how to raise the children, where to live, and which language to speak, practice. And all of these cultural elements kind of come clashing and colliding together into one household, and that couples have to negotiate these cultural differences on a regular basis. And I thought this is really great material for a book. And originally, I just wanted to write a book of fun anecdotes about different cultural faux pas that take place between couples. But then the project just...
Wow. Kind of tell us, I guess, some of the challenges of having more of a multicultural type marriage.
Well, the main challenge is that the couple they lack a common framework of what they consider to be normal and how things are done. Let's say their perspective on the world is how, it can be a very simple thing, like, what do you have for breakfast? Is it flapjacks with maple syrup on top, or is it a bowl of rice? And all kind of variations in between. It's things like religion, when do we practice and how do we practice and why do we practice and how do we integrate religion into our everyday lives, or is this just something that every Sunday at 11 o'clock at the chapel? Or languages, which languages, what do you speak? What does your partner speak? What do you speak together? What do you speak with your children? If usually both partners are not native speakers of the same language, so sometimes couples are stumbling and tripping over the languages. So there's a very long list of challenges. I would like to say at the same time, there's also a very, very long list of wonderful things and very enriching things, because all of these challenges and problems also create wonderful opportunities for growing and really creating a kind of ethnic patchwork within the marriage that is a wonderful.
Wow. I know in the course of during your book, you interviewed couples, and they had some really not really challenges, but from, like you mentioned, from religion all the way from what you're going to eat, from school, for things you do in your household, from dress and so forth. Can you talk about the couples that you interviewed and some of the things that really stood out that I can't say it's the norm, because marriage is marriage, the same elements, but however, what things really stood out when you did that interview with them that kind of help you long term, and also couples need to be aware of, even down to the parents come in and stay with you,
It's a fantastic question, and of course, with all fantastic questions, I think it's also difficult to answer very specifically, because of course every couple will bring in their own set of cultural issues, and the combination of that will make it easier or more difficult for them. Of course, religion can be one of the most difficult cultural relationships, because it's so much a part of, so internalized. And but having said that, usually couples who get together, they're let's say very liberal with their religion, because if they were so devout and so fundamental within their own religion, the likelihood that they marry somebody from another religion, but then sometimes there's religious conversion gets in. So that can be a very tricky one. Also, because sometimes when people think they're not that religious at one period of their life, particularly when they're younger, they may become on, or when a child is revert back of their youth. And so that can cause future problems in relationship if suddenly. And then the second factor, which is very difficult for multicultural couples or some, is location. And it's in his country, third country, are we going to spend 2 years at your place, my place, and things like that. And that can be really challenging because of the language issue. So depending on the languages that the couple speaks, that will determine how easy planning as well can challenge. Sometimes some have a brilliant career in one country and then move to a new country, and their professional or educational qualifications are not even recognized, or there may not be fighting in it. So these can really challenge the individual and living in their new country. And if they're not feeling happy, and then really tempting to look at the partner who brought you over there and say, you know what, this is kind of your fault, and you brought me here, and there's a temptation to want to go home and go back to my old life. So I would say I could make a short list: religion and location.
Wow.
Another fun element, I must say, is food. It's not a deal breaker per se, but it can lead to a lot of daily excitement and friction within the household.
Mm-hmm. Well, dealing with any other things that stood out with that interview, things that I'm not going to say it was really a sad thing, because you have, it's like mixing a Catholic with a Jew person who practices the religion of being a Jew, then also the different Christian the same way. Like, for example, you take the Western Catholic and you take the Eastern Catholic, they celebrate holidays. They celebrate the holidays, but they're kind of 10 days apart in one sense that any notion of, I think during your course of your interviews that you ran into that same issue, almost parallel, but then, hey, which one are you going to celebrate? Or are you going to celebrate both?
Yeah, that's a big decision for couples, isn't it? And they have a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
They can celebrate all of the religious.
Let's just repeat Christmas again.
Yeah, it's party time. So whatever religious event is coming up, they pour it full out, and it does. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of cooking, it's a lot of family gatherings, a lot of gifts for the children. But it can be very nice for the family because they're demonstrating how multicultural they are and being very flexible. Most couples, however, will tend to pick and choose. They'll say, okay, we'll do the important ones from your religion and important ones from my religion. Some couples will avoid all of the above. They don't ever. They can also just celebrate. If they're living in a third country, they may just celebrate. So, as I said, every couple, they have their own level of religious commitment based on that combination side, how they're going to celebrate. And
wow. Other than that particular piece itself during the interview, is there anything that stood out that was kind of a sad thing about having, I guess, the downsides, or I'm not going to say we're downsides, the cons of being in a multicultural relationship? Is it from just not the ethnic communities, but, okay, the children get treated differently, or, for example, the family treat the other person differently, the neighborhoods that they select, they could be really cautious of in strong communities. Any of those type of things that stood out and that you may know in your book?
Well, yes, it can happen, and it does happen. If a multicultural couple just lives in a very homogeneous society. So in the book, I have one really very powerful example about a black-white couple, and they live in Europe, and they're the only multicultural, they're the only biracial family in town, and it can be challenging for them in some ways because it puts a bit of a spotlight on them. So that there's this black man, and everything that he does, the whole village kind of looks at him and says, "Oh, that's how black people do it."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "No, I'm just one person. I'm an individual here. I'm not ambassador for blacks all over the world. We have different cultures, just like any other race." And so that can be challenging as long as it's not. I mean, sometimes it's just a normal curiosity, and there's kind of an excitement and a novelty effect of being the only family in town. But sometimes it is kind of a negative racism, and for the family and for the biracial children, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens as well, not just with race, but also national families having, if they are minority, point that they're only challenging for practice what they believe their culture going and alive, and for to be proud of it. That's definitely a challenge, and that's very much influenced by the location, very multicultural and very dynamic cultural that tends not to be. But of course, even within the United States, there are pockets where it is uncomfortable still to be a biracial relationship, despite that's still.
When it comes to, I guess, with multicultural groups regarding arranged marriages, have you seen any in arranged marriages within that particular segment in multicultural? Have you had, like, for example, the Islamic, well, I doubt this ever happened, would pick someone else from India for a spouse?
No, it's a wonderful question. In the couples that I interviewed, not come across arranged marriage.
Okay.
They were always by choice. There were a couple of cases where they were families, where Aunt Martha kind of arranged it. But in the end, it was the couple who made the choice.
What do you think about the arranged marriages itself?
I'm not in a position to comment on what I think about it personally, but what I have learned about it and what I think is really useful about it is that because the two people coming into the marriage, they may not know each other as well. They may not have chosen each other, but they've made the commitment to go to go in life together as partners. And so they go into the marriage being ready for compromise. And I think that's really important. And
Wow.
if they're lucky, then the arranged marriages, they actually do fall in love over time because they appreciate how flexible the other partner has been, how caring and considerate they've been, and they learn how to be together. And I do think that's quite an admirable trait, particularly when you think in society, Western world, where divorce rates are over 50%. And one of the main reasons for that is that we're no longer as accommodating and as flexible as we. So that's what is interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing because I think one person mentioned, the author, he said, well, when you're dating, you meet the person's representative, but when you marry, you meet the real person. So, so I guess that's a lot of the truth. So the representative is off then. Now you're dealing with now you meet the person when you say I do.
Yeah.
But I guess
experience
but he's another author, but he has words of wisdom. Talk about your book real quick and kind of tell us a journey of what your book about, and if you can pick something that really stands out, a passage that you want to leave us with, can you go ahead and, you don't mind sharing that with us?
Okay. Just once again, the book is about multicultural romance and marriage, and it is a fun book based on dozens of interviews from everything from the multicultural wedding, multicultural kitchen, race, where to live, language, so on. So it's very comprehensive, but it's fun and easy. And in terms of choosing a passage, it's hard to say. I think that I'll just go with, if I'm undermining myself here, the potential fails, but I will read one of the top 10 clue lists that I have in the book, because I try to end every chapter with a kind of summary, top 10 clues, that you are in a multicultural relationship. So at the end of the book, I conclude with number 1, you read this book with your spouse and you laughed quite a lot, actually. Number 2, you read this book with your spouse and you cried quite a lot, actually. Some people just cry with joy at recognizing themselves with it. Number 3, you wonder how the author knew so much about your personal and private relationship issues. 4, for each and every topic covered in this book, you said, I knew that. Number 5, for each and every topic covered in this book, you said you could also include A, B, and you have a long list of related issues. Number 6, you know several other multicultural couples with whom you share this book. Number 7, you have several non-multicultural family members and friends. Number 8, you know that world peace is home, starting at breakfast every morning for partner. Number 9, you complain frequently about the challenges, the frustration of having a multicultural spouse. And number 10, top spouse, not trade in both.
Wow. Well, tell us how we can get the book. Is it available through Amazon?
Yes, it is. You can find it on Amazon.com, and it's also on Barnes and basically any online shop.
Okay. And your website, that if they want to get some more information about the book?
Yes, it's the globalizationoflove.com. Also find me on Facebook, on my author page, and on the book page.
Great. Wendy, thank you for joining the program today. I really appreciate it, and hope to have you on again.
Okay, thanks for having me. I really
Thank you.
I enjoy it too, and your questions were great. It was a lot of fun. Okay.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Again, I'm Wendy Williams with the Globalization of Love. You can pick up this book at Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, or you can check out her website. Thank you for joining the program, and this show can be downloaded on iTunes or on Blog Talk Radio. Thank you for listening to the program. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For more information about equipment financing and asset-based loans, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. Or call us at 866-611-7457. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. And thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.